Welcome to The Debate. Our focus today, it really dives into the heart of achievement, pulling directly from the source material. Focus on you until you win. Now, the core philosophy of this text is, well, it's an intense demand for personal agency, leading us to our central question. Does the difference between achieving your most ambitious goals and failing to reach them hinge entirely on internal discipline and self-mastery? Or are external opportunities, timing, and conditions really the non-negotiable prerequisite for ultimate winning?
Right, and this is where I think we part ways a bit with maybe the more, let's say, romantic idealism you sometimes find in self-help literature, and we have to enter objective reality. The material certainly asserts that we have, or seem to have, absolute control over our destiny through sheer willpower.
And I'll argue that relentless personal discipline, self-mastery, and the radical acceptance of full responsibility are the defining and, I'd say, sufficient factors for success. The mantra is pretty absolute. Nobody is coming to save you, and the ultimate reward, well, it's the person you become in the process.
And I will maintain that while internal discipline provides that non-negotiable engine for any pursuit, I absolutely concede that external factors, namely opportunity, timing, and the prevailing conditions, those are the necessary elements for that internal strength to translate into tangible, acknowledged winning.
Okay, so my thesis rests on the fundamental idea that success is built, well, from the inside out. The text demands full ownership, daily commitment. It defines the path to winning as contingent entirely upon, and I'm quoting here, how much you're willing to focus on yourself without distractions, without excuses, and without waiting for permission. So the real secret, therefore, is consistency. It is the required daily showing up, irrespective of external validation or even, frankly, internal motivation sometimes. Because the source material makes it clear, growth is a requirement, not really an option. We are constantly reminded that the external achievement is almost secondary. The real prize was who you became in the process. If your self-mastery makes you unbreakable, well, you've achieved the ultimate win, regardless of the current scoreboard.
Okay, I acknowledge the immense power of that philosophy. I really do, but I reject its sufficiency. I think we have to address the external environment, which, the source material itself recognizes is built to distract you and is full of setbacks. That environment, I believe, determines the absolute ceiling of what your internal effort can achieve. Discipline builds strength, yes. Chapter 7 highlights that. But the material also demands we trust your process even when results are invisible, quoting Chapter 8 there. This concept of the invisible season, it proves, I think, that the realization of effort, the breakthrough, is fundamentally conditional upon external timing and, let's say, market readiness. Your strength might feel infinite, but if the door is welded shut externally, that strength results only in maybe a deeper personal well-being, not the external tangible achievement we often define as success.
But isn't that external focus immediately risking falling into the destructive trap of blame? The material, in Chapter 6, explicitly categorizes acknowledging external barriers as a destructive mindset that basically surrenders control. Ownership, conversely, is framed as the ultimate freedom. The truly strong person, according to this view, uses every disadvantage as strength and views every failure as training. They refuse to allow external factors, even an objectively unfair starting point, to dictate their future. So, if you claim that a lack of opportunity or external conditions prevented your success, aren't you simply blaming the circumstances and abdicating your agency over the one thing you can control, your effort?
See, I come at it from a different way. Framing the assessment of objective external barriers as merely blame, well, I think that's intellectually limiting. It risks ignoring real systemic friction. I mean, the source dedicates considerable energy describing the external world as having noise, critics, and pervasive distractions that want your energy, right? That's Chapter 2. It demands that we must, quote, become ruthless about eliminating distractions, Chapter 5. Now, if the world is so actively and persistently hostile at internal focus, the critical question becomes, is that ruthless elimination of noise equally achievable for everyone?
I believe it is a matter of will.
I disagree. I mean, Consider the person focused on just survival. It's easy to talk about eliminating distractions if your distractions are, social media and frivolous spending. It's nearly impossible if your distraction is the absolute necessity of working two physically demanding jobs simply to cover rent and food. For that individual, sustaining the necessary level of internal commitment, that essential daily relentless focus, it just requires a baseline of favorable circumstances or maybe an opportunity that reduces the immediate, urgent threat of precarity. When every single ounce of energy is devoted to solving the external problem of survival, the internal work isn't just hard, it's resource depleted. You cannot simply will away the need to sleep or eat.
But that is precisely the crucible, isn't it? That's where genuine self-mastery is forged. The greatest victories come after the greatest struggles. The philosophy isn't describing some gentle journey, it's describing a war waged internally against external temptation and difficulty. The teaching maintains that because the world is built to distract you, your commitment to self-mastery becomes the single defining feature of success. Okay, you cannot control the need for the second job, maybe, but you control your attitude and effort during the hours you can dedicate to your goal, whether they are at 5 a.m. or midnight. That control over effort is your freedom, and the belief that effort alone is enough, well, that's what sustains the discipline.
I am sorry, but I just don't buy that effort alone guarantees the external result we tend to associate with winning. Let's move beyond character building for a moment and look at practical efficacy. We have to accept, I think, the consistent action doesn't always lead to the desired outcome when these opportunity bottlenecks exist.
The consistency, however, ensures readiness.
Readiness for what, though? Let's go back to the invisible seasons from Chapter 8, where effort yields no visible results. This concept fundamentally proves the result isn't guaranteed by effort alone. It requires patience for the sprout to break the soil, which relies on external timing, market reception, or, as the text puts it, catching the breaks when they come. That's Chapter 7 again. Imagine the most disciplined inventor working on technology, say, 10 years ahead of its time. Their internal growth might be profound, sure, but until the market catches up, an external condition they absolutely cannot control, they remain unseen and, unsuccessful by external metrics. Without that external breakthrough, the consistently disciplined person only achieves internal growth, not the external win that, let's be honest, the listener is often chasing.
Okay, but I would challenge your assumption there that the external win is the primary metric the source is truly concerned with.
Then why does the source consistently use the language of winning and rewards, which are inherently external metrics? If self-transformation were the only prize, the title of the work might be something like Focus on You Until You Become Unbreakable. But it specifically says, until you win. The pursuit of the external win seems to be the necessary catalyst for the transformation.
Perhaps, but I'd argue that growth is happening even when results are invisible. The work is never wasted. I agree with that part. But I would argue that discipline's true power is that it creates leverage for opportunity. The source argues, the world rewards the people who stay focused when everyone else gives up, Chapter 1. This implies that discipline ensures you are the last one standing, right? Thus, maximizing the probability that when the external opportunity finally appears, you are perhaps the only one capable of seizing it. That diminishes the power of the break itself. You don't just wait for luck. Your consistency effectively makes you lucky.
That's an elegant reframing, I'll give you that. But it still acknowledges the necessity of the break, doesn't it? If the win is defined externally, a promotion, a successful business launch, financial gain, whatever, then the unseen growth mentioned in Chapter 8 is frankly insufficient until external conditions permit success. Your own example of the inventor proves my point. He only wins when the market finally aligns with his internal preparation. If an entire industry is unexpectedly decimated by, say, a shift in global policy, or a vital funding stream just vanishes overnight, your internal strength becomes a valuable consolation prize, perhaps, but it did not achieve the stated external goal.
But the disciplined individual, according to this philosophy, doesn't halt when the market shifts. They don't see an external tragedy as a signal to just quit. The teaching is quite clear. You can turn every disadvantage into strength. You can use every failure as training. The focus remains on growth until a new opening appears. They understand that their control lies solely in their consistent action, not in the volatility of the external environment. They pivot precisely because their internal resilience allows them to absorb the external shock and maintain momentum towards something.
Okay, I completely agree that the capacity to pivot is an internal strength. Of course it is. But adaptation and pivoting are simply necessary responses to the objective reality that you cannot control the world around you. The very fact that constant adaptation is necessary is, to me, proof that internal commitment is never truly sufficient on its own. It merely keeps you in the game long enough, hopefully, to successfully navigate an uncontrollable outside force when it finally presents an opening you can exploit.
You seem to be focusing on the potential scarcity of opportunity, whereas I'm focusing on what I see as the greater scarcity, true unwavering commitment. If an opportunity does appear and you are not ready, if you haven't done that deep internal work, it's utterly useless to you. Therefore, the internal work is the only variable that ultimately determines whether you can even capitalize on the break when or if it comes.
But what good is readiness if the breaks genuinely never come for someone? The hard reality is that the external environment, whether through, privilege, geography, or just sheer dumb luck of timing, often determines whether your dedicated effort operates on the stage of maximum impact or remains confined to the shadows, unseen.
Well, I think this intensive exchange really shows the powerful, inherent tension within the source material itself. It demands absolutely everything of the self, but that self's most function must exist in a chaotic world it can't control.
Indeed. It asks for maximum effort while simultaneously warning us that the world is actively trying to take that effort, that focus, away from us. It's a fascinating dynamic.
So, to summarize my perspective, ultimate, meaningful success is defined by self-mastery, by discipline, and by the unbreakable character forged in that struggle. You possess everything you need inside you right now. You only need to commit fully. You win by focusing fully on yourself every single day, because that focus, that commitment, is the only thing you truly command.
And I'll summarize by asserting that while unrelenting internal focus absolutely provides the engine, and it must be maintained, no question, external opportunity and proper timing provide the essential road. Without the necessary external conditions aligning, relentless internal effort may remain perpetually unseen, unrewarded by external metrics, and thus fail to achieve the externally defined goal of winning. This reveals the true, recognized success demands a complex and, let's face it, often rare alignment of both internal and external conditions.
This debate certainly reminds us that while we have, I believe, absolute responsibility for our effort and our growth, we operate within a world we ultimately cannot fully command.
Right, and understanding that you must maintain that inner fight precisely because the outer world is so unpredictable and often unforgiving, well, that might be the only way to truly manage that uncertainty.